And Chris Mannix, I told you, had a great tweet. And here's his tweet. He says, when Boston reached the end of their run in 2013, it could have kept their team together. Tried to squeeze one more run out of Pierce and KG and Rondo in that core. Instead, they offloaded stars to get the draft capital that built them into the team they are today. It's not a hot take to suggest the Warriors should do the same. And I agree with this. And my question to you is, will they do it? Or because, listening to Kerr last night, you just watched old man Klay Thompson announce that he's done, as far as not done, but like done as like a carrier. And you come back in the post game like he's done incredible things and, we need him back. Well, it's like, if you really feel like these guys all need to be back, then maybe it's time to say goodbye to you too.
Well, look, Kerr is always going to talk about his players glowingly in any press conference, and he knows that Klay's about to hit the market, so he might be trying to increase value. Like Kerr is always going to do right by how he lands any comments about his players publicly. So I don't begrudge him that. But
it's time for them to lean into the rebuild.
Klay Thompson cannot be back on this team next year. And if Steve Kerr, it's like we need to take the heroin away from Steve. We need to get him some methadone. We need to wean him off of how he used to think about this team and get him to move on to how he now needs to think about this team. Curry, Draymond, Kuminga, Podziemski, Trayce Jackson-Davis, Moses Moody, Gary Payton II. You're all back. Everybody else is replaceable. Everybody else is move on from. And, I put Draymond in that category because he still offers the Warriors value. He's still their junkyard dog. They play their best basketball with him, not without him. But holy shit, Larry, there's nobody in the NBA, not a single entity, who has done more to fuck up 2 years in a row than Draymond Green. He's done as much as any single player to alter 2 NBA seasons in the wrong direction. The punch of Jordan Poole, which everybody admitted after the fact, really affected the entire year and hung over the cloud like, hung over the team like a cloud. And then Draymond Green getting his 25-game mental break, the absence, it ruined this season too. Draymond is out there for those 25 games. Not only are the Warriors not the 9 seed, they're the 6, the 5, the 4. 25 more good games of the Warriors gets them out of the situation they found themselves in last night. So Draymond, I do. We've got a really complicated relationship. Draymond, I love to hate you. I hate to love you. But, you're essential to what the Warriors do. But motherfucker, it's time to grow up. It really is. Because
well, no, it's time to move on. It's time to move on. He has value. Move him.
I don't think he has more value to anyone but the Warriors, though.
No, the Lakers would take him. I think you could get some pieces from the Lakers. I mean, here's the way I see it. You got a few pieces to move. The Warriors don't have a lot of moves to make.
I would move Andrew Wiggins, I think, before anybody. It's just 2 seasons of completely uninspired effort, 2 seasons of mysterious, inexplained absences, and for a guy who's got literally like more talent in his body than anybody on the court tonight. There's a reason why this guy was the number 1 overall pick. And I hate to say this. He's got more talent than most of us will ever dream of. He's got abilities that should make him a superhero, but unfortunately he is wired like a basketball pussy.
Who are you talking about?
Andrew Wiggins.
Andrew Wiggins. He's just coasting. This is what happens when you have $200 million in the bank. That's what he's got. He made $200 million.
He got that. Andrew Wiggins has always had the spectacular abilities, kind of a pussy. Like, that's been his reputation since high school.
He just drifts. He's got to go. He's got to go. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you got Podziemski and you got Kuminga and you got Trayce Jackson-Davis and Steph, and then that's it. Everybody else can go. And should go. I mean, they should move off from Green. Why? Because Green still is a tradable candidate, tradable commodity. They don't have anything to trade. I mean, they don't have any picks. They've got a super expensive roster. I mean, they've got to trade. They've got to make some trades, and they've got to get some assets. They don't. It's time for them to build assets and take a step back. And then you got to ask Steph, does he want to be part of that? Does he want to be part of that? He has earned the right to make that call. And if he wants to be part of it, great. And if he doesn't want to be part of it, that's okay too.
Right. How Steph Curry ends his career will be a mutually agreed upon conversation. There's no, we're trading you, Steph, and he finds out about that transaction. You know, he is. Steph,
but he doesn't have you can't just say Steph. It's not just about, himself. To this point, I think Steph controlled everything as far as like nobody moved without Steph. I mean, really. But it's not always right to listen to the players. I mean, if you listen to Steph and Draymond and Clay, they wanted Avery Bradley instead of GP2. Well, so the players don't always know.
Look, you
got to hear your players. You just don't have to listen to your players.
There are two forks in the road that had they gone in the other direction, this hadn't reached the screeching halt that it feels like it reached on Tuesday night. Had Kevin Durant just stayed and not listened to Twitter to dictate his career, and had the James Wiseman pick either A, worked out, or B, flipped for veteran help around Steph Curry and company, that would have been maybe the difference. Getting back to your Chris Mannix tweet, he is right. It's time to move on. But let's not even try to put what the Boston Celtics had anywhere on the same shelf of what the Golden State Warriors.
I don't think he is either.
One title.
No, I get it. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. But I mean, it still doesn't change the essence of what he's saying.
No, but they also found the dumbest dance partner on the dance floor in the Nets to give them all those assets for guys who are clearly at the end of their careers. So you need to find a stupid dance partner if you're the Warriors to oversell and get rid of, starting with Andrew Wiggins, to see what you can get back from him. Because Andrew Wiggins is just still alluring enough to have some dumb GM fall for the.
He'll be easy to move. He's going to be easy to move.
Well, I think if he was easier to move, they would have done it at this year's deadline. I don't think there was much of a market for Andrew Wiggins when it was actually.
Yeah, but you got to remember he's got at $24 million or whatever he's making. He's got a big contract, but not an enormous contract. There's somebody. I'm not saying you're going to get awesome players for him, but I'm saying you're going to get. There's an Andrew Wiggins equivalent somewhere in this league. Somebody who's making $25 million, who they're tired of. The guy may be a pain in the ass who they trade for, but they'll find a match there. I'm not worried about that. To me, it's can you find somebody who wants to hit the reset and will take Chris Paul for $30 million and give you real players? Is there somebody that actually thinks that Draymond Green can be useful? I think the Lakers might. And I saw Marcus Thompson was like, I think, Klay Thompson's 0 for 10 is going to help him come back. It's like, I don't want him back. I don't want him back. I mean, it's like,
dude, did you watch that game last night, Marcus? Klay, the reason why there are nothing but wide open threes all over the court for the team, Klay doesn't close out on anybody. He can't move. Like, it's great that Klay still got a decent shooting percentage, all things said and done. It's great that Klay Thompson is averaging like 17 points a game, which isn't easy to do in the NBA, but he's given up 20 the other night. He's given up 20 the other way. I mean, he really is. He is a traffic cone defensively for a guy whose real value in his career was predicated on the three-point shot falling and him being able to guard the other team's best player. He can't even guard the other team's slowest player at this point.
They just need to make a series of moves that collect them some young assets and some draft picks, and they need to get back in the draft, and they need to, the one thing about the Warriors that is a positive is that we're in an era where there's, 60 draft picks in a draft. Let's say there's 18 good players in the draft. Those players don't go 1 through 18. They go 1 through 6, and then 9 through 12, and then 22 through 22, 25, and 42 through 43. It's like they're scattered. It's a speculative draft, which is how the Warriors got TJD and Podziemski in the last draft, because the best players don't always go at the top of the draft. We talked about this last night. There's 5, 6, 7 players that are projected to go in round 2. I think Baylor Shireman is going to be a very good NBA 2-guard shooter.
Look,
kind of like a modern day Klay Thompson in some ways. He's that great of a shooter. He's an amazing shooter coming out of Creighton. He's projected to go like 56th or something like that in the draft. Now, when draft day rolls around in June, we'll find out where he goes. But I'm just saying, if you can handicap the draft and have an idea of who can play and who can't play, and you've got great scouts, and I think the Warriors, I think you got to give them the benefit of the doubt, especially after last year, the way they got those two guys. They if they can get some picks, they can unearth some rotation players. You're not going to get stars until you get into the lottery, probably, or but I mean, they're going to have to be creative. And I just think my whole message would just be, be optimistic, because the draft is a crapshoot and they've handicapped it well up to this point. Be optimistic, because Dunleavy seems like he might be a better executive than he was a player, which he was the 3rd pick overall. And that's kind of encouraging. And then Joe will spend the money. Joe's proven he'll spend the money. And then it's just about, find some homes for Draymond and talk to Steph. And if Steph, I'm interested to see what Steph's going to say. I think we all assume that Steph absolutely wants to be here, but he absolutely wants to be here with his guys. But if you start saying, hey, you know what, we're not bringing back Klay Thompson, we're trading Draymond Green, he may just say, you know what, it's been a great run here, guys. I'm open to moving as well. And that might not be the worst thing. It really might not. But they're at a point now where stop trying to win and start building, because you're not, don't tell me about LeBron. Don't tell me about
in that build. You can find the winning in that build. The guy.
Stop trying to win next year.
We'll get better. And look, if there's the other thing that we definitely know here too is that NBA GMs, a lot of them are just really bad. Like, they're so busy looking for perfect that they'll let really good pass them by all the time. That's how Trayce Jackson-Davis fell to the final. The problem with Trayce, so he doesn't have a shot. He's not a shooter. He doesn't shoot the 3. And he is, a 4-year player. So that means he's older than we desire. He was basically the best player at Indiana for 4 years, and he leaves as one of the school's all-time everything record holders. Like, you can't overlook that player. It's not like he's coming from fucking Creighton. You know what I mean? Like, if you are one of the all-time Indiana block, rebound, point leaders, you have done something in your college career that indicates you could do something at the next level too. A whole bunch of GMs said, just a little too old for us, so we're just going to, gotta have a guy who can shoot a corner 3, so can't have that. You can have that. You can have a fundamentally sound player still on the low blocks, even in the modern NBA.
NBA GMs are so enamored by springiness and upside that they choose springiness and upside over real basketball skill.
Yeah.
And that's where the Warriors came in and said, you know what? We're not going to go Cam Whitmore, who jumps out of the gym and can jam. We're going to go with the skill and competitiveness and fire of Brandon Podziemski. They were proven correct. Look how many players went in front of Trayce Jackson-Davis. Trayce Jackson-Davis, to me, basketball players are the easiest to scout. It's all there for you. You're not projecting 10 years down the line like a baseball scout. There's no, you can see everybody's skill.
Give me dogs. Give me guys who play their dicks off. That's what I want.
I don't even care about that. I just want guys with real skill. I mean, Trayce Jackson-Davis had real skills. He averaged 20 a game in the Big Ten. He could score inside. He could set a pick. He could block shots. He could rebound, and he can pass. So, yeah, the last thing to come in baseball is like power for a hitter. The last thing to come in NBA basketball is shooting for most people. You're shooting because you're going to shoot. You're going to put up way more reps as a pro than you ever did in college. So your shooting's going to get better. So they took a player who was everything except a shooter, and he wasn't not a non-shooter because he has no shot. He was a non-shooter because Indiana decided to utilize him that way because they had other guys who could shoot.
By the way,
and he was disciplined. He was disciplined enough to play in their scheme and do what their coach wanted him to do. But he's got upside as a scorer too, and he showed it in the pre-draft workouts that he had, upside as a shooter. And the Warriors found him at 57.
Watch Trayce Jackson-Davis come back next year with a corner three. He adds a little something to his game every year. The baby hook that wasn't there his sophomore year was there his junior year. Better left-handed, his offhanded his senior year than he was his junior year. Trayce takes these significant steps forward, and you can see it happening. Watch him come back with a corner three.
Yeah, no, he's a good. They got something there, and what I don't want to see is I don't want to see them move any of their young pieces trying to chase yesterday. I want them to forget about that plan and go into a painful plan, which is saying goodbye to your Draymond Greens, Klay Thompsons, and if need be, Steph Curry's, to turn the page. Turn the page.
By the way, great quote here from Sporticus in the chat saying, prioritizing cake over frosting is the blueprint for every successful draft, and there's too many GMs who get enamored with the frosting.